I got two coffee cups here. One cost me 50 cents to make, the other $5. So what's the difference? Well, one of them is backed by $1 billion brand. And in this video, we're diving into everything that you need to know to design and execute on a brand that will allow you to charge premium prices. And joining me today is going to be Dan McElhattan, who's actually a branding and marketing expert that's created multi-million-dollar brands.
So this is how we would do our t-shirt. Okay, I want to show people that you can start anywhere and it's okay, and you don't even have to start with a computer.
And I'm hoping that by bribing him with this $5 coffee, he spills the secrets and everything that you need to do the same. Let's go.
Hit subscribe now.
Thank you for having us out here today. This is incredible, man. You know, I've always learned from you every time that we get around each other, and like you designed our logo. So I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. So I have to bring him on the channel, and I'm glad we finally did.
Thank you.
And you brought together a platter here. It looks like a buffet of
I have to. Yeah, it is. It is a platter. I just want to share with you guys, like sometimes when people, they don't have the ideas of what they want to do. This is where I started. I was a volleyball player. I would read these books and I would see these players like St. John Smith and go, I want to work for him. And so I literally looked up the store here at Side Out Sport. I called them up and I got the job. And then we were starting to work with stuff. And next thing you know, we're doing photo shoots, in Hawaii and doing all this stuff. And this is back in the day before computers and stuff. So I haven't brought out the old, so the text here is hand pushed down with Letraset. That's zero. I'm hand done. So this is not done this is pre-computer. So this is how we would do our t-shirts.
You're really dating yourself.
Oh, I am. That's okay. I want to show people that you can start anywhere and it's okay, and you don't even have to start with a computer.
And what's all of this stuff here? Like I see some video games, Dune 2000. What is?
So we got to work with the package. We did the packaging. We did all the game design for that and all the stuff. We did the shirts, the posters. Westwood Studios was the innovator of strategic games. And so at this time, you would not have War or Warcraft. You would not have Assassin's Creed if it weren't for these guys. So it's great to see where my logo is being used in small little places and large places, especially marketing.
Incredible, man. I mean, it's always really cool to learn from people that have been doing this for decades, like literally for decades. From designing, like you mentioned, he started from designing t-shirts to doing product packaging to building brand identities. I'm really excited for what we're about to share in the room right now. All right. So this is going to be a masterclass, guys. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe because you're going to enjoy this.
Hit subscribe now. So to give you a little information about my history, my background, I started off with a pro beach volleyball company called Side Out Sport in the 80s. Side Out Sport was the first pro beach volleyball company that was making a few $1 million before Massimo and brands like Club Sportswear and everything else. And we were doing everything analog. So this was pre-computer. And St. John Smith was our biggest partner, if you will. And he's a pro beach volleyball player, the first person to ever make $1 million playing pro beach volleyball. Now with that, pro beach Side Out Sport themselves eventually evolved into an incredible brand that was distributed nationwide and became international, and then sold the company for $24 million. So we have a little lessons learning from Side Out Sport, and then years later, as I came back to Las Vegas, I got to work under Billionaire Mafia, which was an incredible clothing line, an urban clothing line. And we sponsored people from Busta Rhymes to Ray J and a lot of different rappers, including we had Rick Ross and Tech Nine even show up at our booth, and it was an incredible experience. So you're going to learn today how brands can grow and how you can grow your small company into a scalable fashion. Now, when it comes to visual identity, I love logos. When it comes to logos, it is like my blood. So I've done so many incredible logos for great people, and I love corporate identity. Visual identity, you want to look at what's timeless. There are trending logos, there are trending identities, and those are great. They always pick the colors, and like some people like right now, they like the 90s or the 80s because they're bringing back the resurgence after Stranger Things got real popular. But if we start looking at what are logos that are timeless, these are logos that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years and still are just as powerful today as they are back then. That's something to look at. Also simplicity. Sometimes we try to add everything in the kitchen sink into it. Scratch it, take everything out of it, keep it simplified. If your logo is solid in black and white, fantastic. When you add color, it enhances it to a whole other level. That's huge, but it doesn't work in black and white, it's not gonna be strong enough. So think about this. When we look at logos and stuff, can we remove the type? Is the logo strong enough to tell people what it is? Sometimes it isn't. We have to market so many times and over saturate people with so many things before we can remove a name from a logo. So my suggestion for you is that when you have your logo with your typography and your name, keep it there for as long as you can till you get to a point where you can then start experimenting, removing the name and just having the mark. If you do some research and some evaluation, I love the book Shoe Dog with Phil Knight. It blew my mind. He hated the name Nike, go figure, and he hated the logo. But it's all he had at that time, and look at where they are today. So let's stay focused on one thing. When you do something, put all your effort into it. And as we call it, burn the ships, if you will, or just leave it there at the shore. Keep going even when you're done with it, because you have to realize someone's seeing your logo for the first time. And you can grow your brand so much that when people love it, it helps sell more inventory. That's the key. A lot of people don't know these stories. They don't care. They just want the Superman shirt, right? But how many of you knew that the diamond shape was that meaning, right? So when you're thinking about your logo and you're thinking about your visual identity, think about that you're going to be in it for the long haul, because what you're really establishing, which not a lot of people realize this, you're establishing your legacy. So let's talk about designing your logo and the methodology that you can apply to your logo right now. And you can use this for even developing identity for your shirts and beyond your logo with actually creating what we call the tree. So you have your main logo and you have a family of logos that go with that tree. So look at things that you love and you're passionate about and collect them, put them on a page, study them. Why did it get your attention? How did it stand out? Was it because there was a unique flair to it? Was it the brushstroke? Was it the simplicity of it? Every logo will have some attraction to you for some reason. And it's also based on your experiences. So how do you, when you're picking these logos, how does the visual represent those words? Because adjectives are adjectives, but how do you bring reliability? How do you bring respect into a logo? Everyone says those words, but how do you do it? Quite simple. What I found is that bolder strokes, larger formatted logos, very as simple as you can get them, have a foundational element of respect. They look at that for banks, lawyers, all that stuff. They don't want the scales. They don't want dollar signs. They don't want the eagle. They just want boldness to it. If you look at like Chase's logo, that's a perfect example. People, I'll always say, what is the Chase logo? And they're like, that's that circle thing. And they don't know really what it is. But if you look at the bold font, it's bold, it's simple. So clarity is key in foundational elements. The next thing is if you adapt it into, let's call it the MTV area, where MTV was if you look at the logo, it was just just a squiggle M with a cool TV. But if you notice, they changed the color all the time. They didn't care what was in it. They put visuals in it, they had those stuff, and people eat that up because it was all the personalities. You got to add your personality into the logo. So therefore, it was a frame. Is your logo going to be a frame? Or is it going to be a moniker or a lexicon that people will go to and that we can trust on it? Look at Under Armour, look at Nike. I mean, it took years to build those brands. But when you look at the Under Armour, the U, if you will, and how the A crosses over, some people don't even see that. They see two horseshoes. They don't see the little I in the between of the two letter forms. They're like, what does that mean? It's the focus. But most people don't even get that. So we have to look at how do we develop our brand. So first, you get your R&D set. Now you have your R&D of all the logos that you like. Now, what I tell a lot of my students and a lot of designers is redesign it. And they're like, huh? Build it, rebuild it in Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever platform that you use. I prefer Adobe Illustrator. That's what we need to do as graphic designers, is we need to look at these logos, we resketch them, and as we're resketching, more ideas will come to us, and we're evolving it. I don't want you to steal or adopt these logos so it's slightly changed. That's not what I'm saying here. Be inspired by them by coming up with something completely different and new that no one was expecting of that. And through that process, listen to your thoughts so you can have a bolder, stronger logo. The next thing is, and a lot of people hate this, but you have to do a focus group. And don't do focus groups with your friends or family. Don't do that. They're biased. Sorry. You want to do a focus group to the audience that you think is going to buy your shirts. You want to look at the audience that you're going towards. And so there you go to stores and show people, or you find fans on a certain page or whatever, or fans of a certain group, and say, hey, I'm developing this logo stuff. What do you think? And get some feedback that way. And if a lot of them give you a lot of negative feedback, that's okay. Basically, it's their misunderstanding or non-understanding of what you're trying to do. But for the most part, people will give you good feedback and use that feedback to evaluate for yourself what's going to be good. Where can you stand out and where can you use iconography that's not been used in the realm of that area? And where can you express it in a way that people are normally expressing on the streets, but maybe not expressing on the clothes? Those are two great things. So for what makes a great logo great, when people see it, they can remember it. That's bottom line. It's bold enough that you can see it from a distance and you can reduce it down and it still holds its value. If it can maintain a single color or multiple colors, that's great. If you're gonna do three-dimensional effects, if you're gonna do lightning behind it, those are cool. But if it can't hold one color, it's not gonna be a strong enough logo. Everything else is what we call filler. If you can separate the logo and use it in a vertical, horizontal format, or even by itself, you have the makings of a great identity system. So use those things. So first, R&D, all your logos. Second, rebuild them. Third, experiment. Test the subject with an actual audience, refine, and then use. When it comes to branding, here's some insights that you want to hear and you want to define for your brand and your ideas. So one thing that I constantly hear in the industry all the time, and a lot of people say it, and I find it really interesting, is that they share that it's like they don't want to fail. They have this fear, this kind of feeling and stuff like that. They never want to fail. They always want to be successful. Here's the truth behind a lot of huge successful companies. A lot of them failed, and they fail a lot. And what we want to think about is how do we fail forward? So the question is that when you're failing, it's because of certain service attributes of the corporation. Fulfillment might be lost. You might be losing connection with trends, and you might pick the wrong color palette. All these things are adaptable that we have to change within this marketplace. And one thing you can think about your brand is if something changes, notify your customer at all times. You want to work with those things so you bring in consistency over time. If you can find consistency over a course of 3 years, you're doing an incredible job. Another thing that you want to think about with the failure of a business and stuff and how to succeed even more is pay attention to your books. Grow marginally. There are areas where you're going to want to take a risk. And some people, like myself, we would actually leverage everything on our credit cards. We would leverage any type of assets that we have so we can just keep the company floating, keep it going and everything else. You might be at that place too where it's so stressful. Here's some tips to help you through that stressful time. 1, look at the friendship round. People are like, what do you mean? Find a friendship round where you can create an original idea with certain friends to become investors in the game, and they'll have a return of that investment. Now, let them know that there's a clause that there is that chance of risk, and that's a part of the involvement, but you can leverage some of your own assets, if you will, to pay them back over a certain amount of time. The second thing is some people go to an SBA, they go to a small business loan, or some people go into, you go into venture capitalists and all that. That's great too. My trick that I love this day and age is crowdsourcing. Right now, turn your friends into crowdsources immediately. And what that means is that they're investing in you. They're giving you money before you even produce. And then now you have numbers and you have inventory, like you have orders coming in, and you have a duration of time, usually anywhere from 6 months to 12 months to actually fulfill that order. And you have funding to do so. So with that, I would say crowdsource your projects and look at that. That's an incredible advantage that you can have in building your brand to a scalable amount.
Right now, I want to expand on the crowdsourcing advice that Dan is giving by providing you guys with a real case example, as well as some ways for you to crowdsource regardless of what it is that you're selling. Now, when it comes to crowdsourcing, there are different platforms available. Whether you want to launch a campaign on Kickstarter, there's all kinds of different platforms out there that will actually help you list a product and get pre-orders and get supporters to back that vision and dream. I successfully did a Kickstarter campaign about 6 to 8 years ago. We used Kickstarter and we raised close to $20,000 to launch a new product line. And the things that I learned in that campaign, I want to share with you guys now. The very first one being that you want to launch with a product line that is one singular product. Now, the reason why you want to launch just one product on a pre-order campaign is because you want to be able to get volume for that pre-order. You don't want to launch 6 or 7 different products and then get like 5, 6, 10, 50 on a product. You want all the products sales to be for one category. So in our example, we created this basketball bag and we did 3 different designs, but it was all the same manufacturing style. So we were able to get minimums with the factory, and the factory was able to tell us, hey, as long as you guys sell over this amount of units, we could produce your designs. So you want to find out how much is the minimum order quantity for that manufacturer, and then stick to one key product category as your key offering. Now, this is where it gets interesting though. You want to be able to launch that one key product category, but then you want to have packages. So you want to be able to not just give your customers the option to buy just one t-shirt or one product. You want to also create bundles and have those at higher prices. So in our example, we had one singular product, and then we had packages of 75, and then we had some of about 150, and then we had 200, 400, and even $500. And the reason you want to do this is because you want to give people the opportunity to support you on a larger scale. So if you can structure something in a way that entices them to support even more, you win by getting a larger sale. They also win by getting more products. So you want to be creative and create different bundles, but all of which should include that key product that you are launching and that you need to get minimum orders for. Now, it's important that you also stay in touch with these people that are interested in supporting you guys. You don't want to just get the sale and then never follow up. So one of the things to keep in mind is that you don't necessarily have to launch a pre-order campaign on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. You can also launch it on your own Shopify, your Wix, your WordPress, or anywhere else that you're selling online. And the way that you want to do this is you want to be able to keep everything that I just talked about in mind, but then you also want to have a very strong email capture and opt-in form. Now, this email capture and opt-in form will allow you to capture traffic that you're sending to that pre-order campaign. So then that way, if they don't convert right out the gate, you got them in an email list and you can have a nice email sequence sending to them. And a platform to do this is OmniSend. Now, OmniSend makes it super easy for you guys to actually launch an opt-in form, and they make it really easy for you to remain in touch with your customers. So as you launch a campaign, you want to start to create a feel-good story for what it is that you're doing and the reason that you're starting this. The more you can get them to invest in your story and in your journey, the more involved they're going to be with sharing that campaign, telling their friends and family about what you're doing, and really championing your success. So in order to get started with OmniSend, it's really easy. All you got to do is click the link in the description down below. It'll take you to a free sign up because it's free to get started. And once you do that, all you got to do is connect OmniSend to your e-commerce platform. So if you're selling on Shopify, on Wix, on Squarespace, wherever it is that you're at, OmniSend integrates easily. And anytime you get an order, OmniSend is able to segment it so you know who your customers are. Anytime somebody doesn't buy and just opts in to hear more about your journey, you also know who those people are, and you can help convert those people that are just watching into people that are now buying and supporting your cause. And with that strategy now laid out, let's head on back to Dan.
All right, so let's go right into scaling. So when you're scaling your company right now you have a passion of your ideas, your logos, your shirts, you're starting to do stuff that you've always wanted to do and you haven't seen in the marketplace. And that's a great place to start. Now, how are you going to build your audience? How are you going to build that brand? And what you want to think about is not only when you're manufacturing that idea and creating your shirts, your hoodies, and everything else, but when you're scaling it, who is distributing? How do you turn your customers back into fans so much that they're selling for you? It takes a while to build, but if you start building your audience and your customers and growing your brand one at a time, but figure out how you're going to fulfill that brand with those people by giving more service. So how do you get more service? How do you build the brand with additional stuff other than the shirt you wear? Even if you look at Vans and you look at some of these shirts in these companies, they all add extra value. Not only you're getting a shirt with graphics on it, but you're getting a sticker. And then all of a sudden you're getting a little thank you. And sometimes they even send, if they'll ship it to you, in this incredible bag that you can reuse, and they also add different prizes. What prizes are you gonna add in yours so people remember you and your shirts and realize the prize is something, if you add more of those stickers in there, they can hand off to their friends. Now all of a sudden, you have another touch plate of building your audience and building your brand. Right now, think about the small retail buyers and get to know the salespeople. So look at how you're gonna scale first with your close-knit family, if you will, and your friends, then build it into the thousands. Now the thousands growing is when your friends of friends of friends, the third tier, is growing and they're selling. When you have a repeat customer at that tier, you're on the right track. When you're not getting the aesthetics, if you will, if you feel like you're not selling as much on the friendship level, then you have to adapt and change. And that's where you have to keep an eye on the trend. So I have 5 pointers that I want to share with you, and these are very successful pointers to help you out. So I wrote them down here, and I'm going to make sure I talk to you clearly about them. Quality over quantity. Make sure every piece is threaded accurately. Make sure all the colors are adaptable. Make sure they don't wear off. Make sure they don't fade over time. The second one, audience loyalty and service, key, bar none. Make sure when an order comes in, it's quick turnaround time, quick shipment to them. Make sure you follow up after they receive it. Make sure you follow up with a thank you letter. Here's the funny thing. Most people put the thank you letter in with the shirt. Don't do that. That's already expected. When they get the shirt, they're really happy. What they're not expecting is a few weeks later or a few months later, you send them a thank you for ordering us. We really appreciate the business. And anytime you have any questions about any of our future brands, or you have any ideas that you want to share with us of what you would like to see, please let us know. Engage with them right away. You can do it analog, you can do it digital, but connect back with them with that thank you. But you want to do that for follow-up. Now, the next one is fulfill and gift. Fulfill the item no matter what they order, but always gift them. Like I told you about the stickers, make sure that little toy or that little trinket, that gift is meaningful. Don't make it something they're just going to throw away. Make sure it's meaningful, that it markets you and your message. Do that. People love that kind of conscious corporate engagement. So think about those aesthetics as well. Follow through and share. When you share, if you get some customers that buy your stuff and they tag you, reshare their tag no matter how many times they do it. Do it always. Show that you're really loyal to your fans, and when they're hashtagging you or TikToking the videos or whatever they're doing, make sure you resell them and reshare that and resell them back and say, thank you so much for doing this. This is huge for our family and we really appreciate it. The gratitude that comes from you, the amount of gratitude can never be enough. If you think you did it 1 or 2 times, it's probably not enough. You might want to do it like 3 or 4 times just to keep it out there. The last one I find, which is really cool, is this is the secret sauce for a lot of bigger companies, because everyone thinks, okay, I'm going to make a shirt, I'm going to sell it at these t-shirt shops and everything else. Don't do that, because that's expected. Find traffic that's overlooked. Find traffic that's unexpected. Find a store that maybe would sell other things other than t-shirts and be the first t-shirt within that store. Then all of a sudden you have what's called a targeted audience. And you want to attract people that are getting huge volume. So let's just play this out here. Say like you know a friend. He loves fixing up his cars and he makes his cool Mazda cars into drift cars or whatever. And he has all these parts and stuff in his shop and his incredible upgrades and stuff like that. See if you can design some custom shirts just for that shop, or allow your stuff to be in that shop that no one else is in. And all of a sudden you now have a focus group within a target audience in a certain area that no one else has. Look for those opportunities all the time because they're unexpected. They expect you to be in boutiques, but they don't expect you to be a place that you're not being. So for instance, I'm a graphic designer. I've done logos for years. I've been published in over 45 international books. And I have my accountant in his office behind him with a poster of all my logos. And all his clients that come to him and meet with him and start talking about the books going, what is that? And he goes, oh, that's Dan. That's one of my clients. He does logos. He goes, I need a logo too. People don't expect that these people are now my accountant is selling my work for me. Where are other people, fans or other people that you know, selling you that's unexpected? Tap into that. Let's talk about audience demographics and marketing. So we all know that within the trends of your audience is that you sometimes don't know the age groups unless they actually filled out a form and get back to you. What you want to look at is what's trending. So when you look at different elements of Instagram and Pinterest, the biggest trends that you're going to notice is usually in the entertainment field. So you're going to have your actors wearing the certain clothes. You're going to have your performers that are wearing it with your entertainers, your singers, and they have theirs as well. Some you have to be really cautious because most of their stuff is custom made. Wait a minute. That means your work, if you can get into the PR agencies with celebrities, your swag could be on a rack and someone famous could look at it and pick it. That was one incredible insight that I learned from Lana Fuchs with Billionaire Mafia, is that we worked with a PR agency in LA and they would have a rack, and all of a sudden Busta Rhymes would come in and he would grab some swag and throw it on. He'd be wearing it at his next concert. And we're like, this is incredible. They want, these celebrities, if you will, influencers want the latest, and they also want stuff that you cannot get at the store. They want it custom for themselves. So with that, use that to your advantages. Who can you tap into that could be a resource to someone else? And if you can't get to them, find out if you can find out who their assistant is by reaching out to them through their blogs, reach out to them through their websites, and find that third person to get you in touch with the actual decision maker so that your item or your idea is on somebody, because that will help you blow up your company in a marketing way. Then you'll notice who your audience is after that, because depending on who that person is, their demographics are all over the place. And with that, that means we can do different types of tailoring, different types of designs that will help cater to each of those audiences. So that means instead of doing one design, you might be doing a multiple of 5 to 6. And that could be within a range of what I call 5 or 10 year gaps. So if you're going to be working that, work with those assistants and work with those people and slowly adapt to that audience. And next thing you know, you're going to start blowing up a lot of different orders in a lot of different areas, and it helps you increase your segue. So we're going to talk now about the testing time of brands. When you're developing your brand and you are developing this incredible entity of the brand itself and how you're going to apply it, what's the duration? In these times right now, there are a lot of motivating factors with social media and the TikTok brands and instant videos, instant achievement, getting out there to a far-reaching people, and they'll develop a whole bunch of different lines of clothing. And that's an amazing fast track to instant motivation to getting an element out there to the market. What about those that might want to sustain themselves longer than the moment? How do we outperform the quick fix of the quick hype and go for duration of time, long duration? So what would be a long duration? Is it 3 years? If you look at clothing lines, there are very few brands that have tested over the course of decades, and some that have lasted as long as maybe 10 months or even 10 days. So the question is, what is your duration? For me, I love to look at and evaluate clothing lines that have come and gone, and what made them successful, what made them fail. When I look back at my days at Side Out Sport, there are several clothing companies that no longer exist in that same duration of time frame. A lot of these brands were incredible brands, but they were within a duration of time that maybe spanned anywhere from 3 to 10 years and then just disappeared. A lot of us want to build it so fast because we want money, we want recognition, we want the value of people wearing our clothes, and I think that's great. I would say what would be it from 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Will people still want to be talking about the brand or finding it? Diehards that want to use it forever, if you will, or go back. Do they have to go to eBay to buy your stuff, or can they go to a store and buy your clothing? If you look at the long duration of your brand, think about what you have to do. You have to adapt for the times, you have to adapt for the trends, and build for the slow time. But overall, that means you have a calibration of money that's coming in over those sectors, in which then you can build your legacy to a point of then you do the flip. Just like a house can flip, you can flip your company to a larger corporation. They can manage it, they can distribute it, they can actually start putting in other channels for you, and you can either be a part of it or you can walk away. And at that time, you want to make sure that your legacy arrangement with those corporate flips, if you will, are set in a way that the legacy over time, realize your name started this. Now, when another corporation has it, your name is still on it, even though you have nothing to do with it. What do you want that legacy to do? So make sure you have in the documentation with those corporations how you see the legacy when you're walking away from it. What is Walt Disney now without Walt? Every major corporation has a legacy program in place, and it has to instill some of the mission statements and the values that you put into it as well. And we have to realize that over a certain time, let's say 10 or 20 years, you get what's called burnout, and you're done with your clothing company, and you can't wait to sell it or you can't wait to drop it. You have to realize you have a fan base that still loves your stuff. So the question is that you're probably burned out because of certain circular elements happening with the corporation, how it's structured, how it's billing. There's a lot of stress and overhead. If you have the right people in play at the right certain times, those things do not become a factor anymore, and that your decisions will allow the company to grow naturally and healthy while other people keep it more efficient for you. Hire smarter people than you. Hire people that have more experience than you. And trust me, some of them are going to want more money than you want to spend, but those type of investments over time are going to help your company grow, because then you need to think about the key words nowadays is sustainability, longevity, legacy. Keep those in factors with that growth of the brand over time and those assets, and that can help you understand, why am I playing this 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, or maybe it's a lifelong plan. Good luck.
Guys, I knew that Dan was gonna come through and leave some gems, and if you're watching this, you probably feel the same. But I wanna go ahead and highlight something in case you missed it, and that's the importance of the setting of the foundation for your brand. What does this mean? This means having a strong brand identity, the logo that you design, the color schemes, the way that you're telling the story of what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. These are some of the most important elements that any brand needs to have. And it's honestly one of the most common things that most brands don't do. They wait until way after to think about this, but that direction and that vision is what's gonna give substance to what it is that you're creating. So he left a lot of gems with you guys, but I just wanted to re-emphasize that one right there. And of course, staying true to yourself and continuing to push through even when you get into some hurdles that you're gonna face. Some of the examples of the brands that he shared, they've come and gone, others have stayed, others have sold, and others have gone internationally. So these are all things that you need to keep in mind, guys. You need to have a growth strategy. When do you exit? How much do you sell for? All of these are things that you need to be planning so you can reach that milestone. Now, if you enjoyed this video, but you want to dive more into, the creative side and how do you set up a brand to visually look good and create lookbooks, I have an incredible video here that we're going to link at the end of this one, as well as in the description down below with all of the different resources that we mentioned throughout this video. So if you enjoyed that, make sure you watch this video here where we dive into the things that brands do wrong and the things that brands that make millions of dollars do right. Check out that video there. Check it out in the description down below, and I'll see you then.